All right, it says recording.
Hola.
Welcome, Aaron. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man.
I thought I'd
Uh,
flip it around and ask a question first. Guys, how are y'all doing? I don't know when you're watching this. So it is May 22nd, roughly about 7 p.m., and we're in day 10,000 of quarantine, minus 9,950 days.
yeah.
Um,
I was about to say I've grown hyperbolous in my quarantining.
it's been interesting, man. We got a lot of woodshed done. We've got a lot of videos done. I love getting this channel started.
Oh
Guys,
yeah.
please click like, subscribe, comment, and find all those buttons. And there's a bell now. I'm just finding out
There's
about
been a
this.
bell for
Apparently,
a
it's like
bit.
a year old.
Yeah.
So hit that too, whatever that is. Tonight we got solos for you. Some of our favorite solos. We're just gonna call this solos round one.
Cool.
Um, and maybe we should just get to it here. So
Sure.
when we said we were going to do a solo, and specifically do a solo from a record like it's played, at least as close as we can interpret, I went, oh my gosh, when's the last time I learned a solo? And I was like,
Right.
okay, college. Um, as a
Ooh.
playing in lots of jam bands, we don't play the solos from the records a lot of times.
Right.
Though we play lots and lots of melody lines from records. I think a Can't You See's flute part.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, and we played that stuff accurately, but we
Yeah.
don't
The
really learn the solos in jam bands. We kind of It's improvisation.
right. Right.
So I was like, well, let's go all the way back, and I dug this bad boy out. That's
There you
it. For
go.
all of you from Macon, Georgia, this was bought at Wesley Music on Atlanta Road in Gray. I don't know when I bought this. I must have been 15 or 16 years old. Uh, and so I started with the first solo. So this is Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath from the album Black Sabbath,
The unholy trinity.
the Holy Trinity.
The un.
Uh, one thing I love about this solo is that there's two chords. It's a G and a B flat. And as it plays the G and the B flat, the bass player walks G, F, E, E flat. So you get this sound: G, B flat over F, G over E, which I don't even know, and then B flat over E flat. So
Yeah,
you really
man.
have some complex chords going on here, right?
Oh man, I love a one. I love a one with a four in the bass.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they were thinking. I think they were like, "Ooh, I like that walk down on the bass," and you just keep playing those chords.
Sure, but
That's how
sound
I
to
would have wrote
sound.
it. So here goes. We're gonna take a run at this thing here, and it comes in. It's in 6/8. 1, 2. Yeah,
Nice.
short and sweet. Oh, that
Awesome.
was pretty accurate, actually.
Sounds good,
Honestly, the
man.
hardest thing in that is probably the very last note. He bends it up and slides it down at the same time.
Yeah, man.
And that was when you hear it on the record, you're like, oh, that is really he's
Yeah.
and it's I mean it's like at the same time. It's instant.
Yeah. Sounds great, man.
Yeah. Not bad for an hour working on it. If you guys sit down and you hunker down and focus, I mean, you can do this in an hour. I think I probably played this years and years and years ago, so some of
Yeah.
it's refresher. I will point out there's a technique here that I have not used since playing this early Black Sabbath stuff, and this is the 16th note trill with repeated pick strokes. So I left the pick strokes out, and,
Okay.
and it's
Okay.
basically this thing. So that's one E and and
Okay.
he just does it so fast that
Okay.
and
Okay.
really in time when he does it. So I just left out the pick strokes on that for
Okay.
myself.
Cool. Uh,
So when you hear this, what stands out on your end?
well, I was just gonna ask, okay. I was gonna ask you a question. I was gonna interview you for
Okay,
it,
you can
but
interview me then.
let me pick your brain real quick since you took all the time learning it for us. I want to. What did this? Okay, when did you learn this song? When did you work on this song first? Like, do you remember how old you were when you first like started picking this little bit apart?
It had to be in that, like when I really sat down to buckle and learn the solo, I had to be 16 or 17. And
And
I'd
like,
been playing about 4 to 5 years at that time.
nice. And like, what did it teach you? What was like the thing that solo that you like after having learned it? What was like, man, I gotta. What was there anything new in the vocabulary of that, either technically or like pitch wise or like position on the guitar? Was there something about that you're like, man, I'm keeping that in my back pocket from like forever now?
When
After,
I look at this, what stood out to me more than anything was the rhythm of
okay,
everything. He's super accurate with his rhythms. And it's it's all triplets. So there's like one little 16th note area.
yeah,
But it's all triplets and triplet feel, and he just locks in, and everything is
yeah,
and it has the drive. So even when you play it without the backing track, it kind of still has that feeling. And I
yeah,
remember that being a struggle, especially on these repeated patterns. And then there he goes out of time entirely for some reason.
yeah. That's all right. That's great
And
too.
it's sort of a feel thing. He goes into like a swing feel over the
Yeah.
top of the triplet.
Do
Whoever
you think you played
transcribed
it?
this did a good job trying to accurately depict that.
Nice. Do you think you played it that well when you were 16?
No, I would say that I did not play it anywhere close to that well when I was 16. The biggest thing I would have missed at 16 is the depth and quality of the bends,
Of the
the
bands,
the drags and the tuning,
the timing
uh,
and the tuning.
the timing, the vibrato. The first note is actually a quarter step bend with vibrato on it.
Oh yeah.
Like that together, by itself, together, both.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
yeah. There's just so many little variations,
yeah, so that
like
that little subtlety in it I wouldn't have got when I was 16. This lick at top we were just looking at, this is the full step bend. And it starts at
yeah.
the bottom and bends all the way up.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you hear Tony play it, he does just hold the first finger and you can hear the top notes ring over.
Gotcha.
From learning to sweep pick, I kind of roll that finger back and forth.
Yeah.
And so I kind of get rid of
Find it
that.
hard to turn that gear off. Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, the bends, that is the huge difference. And I would have never got that falling section on these big bends.
Now
I would have never got that up and down.
that little part in the where you hit that little string and it catches the B string too, like to give you that 2-string return on the bend that you just did. Like on
Yes.
the one. Is that something that's on the record that you recall? Or is that something that's
On
like
which one?
just when you bent that little string, you bent the flat third up and you caught that B string under and you get that you get like the two string kind of coming down. You know what I'm
Uh,
talking about?
yeah, I bet if you played it 100 times, it'd be there most of the time.
I noticed it both times
I
just
don't
now.
know that it's on the record or it's not written in the music. No, that's
No,
just
I
the
mean
nature of my
that's just a feel
playing. I'm just
thing.
me digging in too much.
No,
I
no,
could probably
no.
lay off just a little bit there.
No, I'm all about that. School of
Uh,
Stevie Ray Vaughan, that happens all the time. I was
yeah,
just
Stevie Ray Vaughan would come back with the half step behind it, though. I feel like.
yeah, I just mean that B string catch under it is really all.
Yeah, there's little ghost things like that all over this solo on the record.
Yeah.
And Tony's notorious for them. Some people would say it's sloppy. I don't think it is. I think he's just going for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when you hear him do the left hand tremolos, with the pick, he's super accurate rhythmically on those, and they're really hard. I've been playing here for about 2 hours right now, and I don't feel like I'm warmed up enough to really execute this properly.
It sounded good to me.
Well, thank you, man. I was also playing the finger picking acoustic guitar beforehand, so I wasn't really warming up speed at all. Yeah, but it's a cool solo. Lots of blues stuff.
Yeah, man.
Triplets and big bends.
And would you say like, was there anything that stood out in terms of like pitch things that you've done? Like for those that listen and have heard anything else of us talking about scales for even just a moment, we certainly have talked pentatonic a lot, and certainly this guitar solo is very pentatonic. But are there any moments that stand out that are outside of the pentatonic to you too?
No, I don't think there's a single note outside of the pentatonic other than the bends. I think something that stands out to me is in that middle, in the slow bend drops.
Yeah.
For some reason, that interval of a fifth there on the relative one chord pulls it away from pentatonic for me.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes big jumps.
Yeah. And I was trying to do it by ear, and I kept missing that note, going, thinking it sounds like a 9 now. It didn't sound like a pentatonic note. It sounded like it was outside of the pentatonic.
Right.
And then it's not. But other than that, at least on this transcription, he didn't put one note outside of the pentatonic. That one.
Yeah.
Okay. I found one.
Yeah, I was just curious because because you had 2 just then, right?
One note that's actually outside of the pentatonic, where it plays the A.
Yeah. I meant scale degree 2. Sorry. Yeah.
Scale degree 2. Yeah, and that's it. That's the only note.
Just a tiny little moment.
Let me quit saying that. Let me quit saying only. I'll double check the transcription here. I'll go off of this.
No, you're fine.
So anything that's not a bend, he has another A transcribed at some point, but it's a ghost.
No, it's all good. I was just curious because I know in early solos that I learned, like, you really gravitate towards pentatonic things, especially in like blues and rock. And every now and then you get a moment that steps outside of it, and you go like, oh, especially in an early solo, sometimes it can catch your attention as like
Yeah, if I wanted to take a solo, the one that did that was War Pigs in Black Sabbath.
Oh, okay.
Solo goes does that kind of thing. Was it?
Yeah, that scale degree.
I don't remember exactly what it is. I'm obviously doing it completely wrong, but that kind of scale degree walk around thing.
Sure.
But in this solo, nope, pentatonic, man, and it's G and B flat. It's 6 minor 1, 6 minor 1, 6 minor 1.
Yeah, and with the bass note changes, it does make it makes the harmony.
It's super interesting. Yeah, that harmony gets.
Yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, even though it may have been viewed as 2 individual things, like the bass influences it so much that it's beautiful chords.
Yeah, man.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man. Great solo choice.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I see you're not holding an electric guitar tonight.
No, because I thought I was certain you would come busting out with some great electric stuff. So I figured I would stick to some acoustic guitar for me.
I'm glad we went with our instincts, because I almost like purposely did an acoustic guitar solo just because it was unpredictable.
Well, yeah, and I went with it because maybe not predictable for me, but I just know that I already knew what I had in mind when we started it, and I was like, I think I want to talk about this solo. So
Yeah, guys, and if you want to hear more solos, let us know. Hopefully, when we get into the shop, we can put some background tracks on them too, and do
oh
some of
yeah.
this stuff with the music. When it comes through Zoom, it's kind of strange.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just spitballing it. We're we're
Sweet,
we're
man.
we're doing quarantine right, so
So acoustic, I'm guessing something 70s
well,
ish.
I dropped. God, everyone's probably already tired of hearing me say it, but I've dropped the Eric Clapton Unplugged album name so many times now that it's time that
Okay.
like it's time. It's like I'm gonna pick something from here,
It's time to
and
go buy the album, guys. I mean, if you
I
haven't
mean,
listened to the Unplugged series in general, I mean,
yeah, certainly,
the Clapton one's up there for sure.
yeah, it's certainly. I don't know.
It's
It,
up
it
there on my
sparked a
favorite
lot of them.
Clapton albums too.
Yeah, same. And this one I thought like we're picking solos and I mean I'm going for the acoustic guitar solo that's in Layla. And he's doing and everyone knows his like more chill version, the little so you got like a little bit of a like a swingier feel. He sings it a little bit more low, like he sings it an octave down from like the original, and it's super chill. But I'll never forget the solo the first time I heard it, and that was one of the first solos, especially for the acoustic guitar, where I was like, man, I gotta learn every single note to this, like every single note. I absolutely love every single note. So let me switch cams so you can actually see my hands a little better,
Yeah,
and
let's
then
check this out.
I will play the solo 100% perfect with no mistakes. You know? um, yeah. Layla, got me on my knees, Layla. Beg you, darling, please, Layla. Darling, won't you ease my worried mind?
Woo!
Sweating bullets, trying to. It's like, wait, what was that one part? But yeah, I'll switch back.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's got some stuff that really gets outside of the pentatonic, and I'm hearing that little. I'm
It's
not
good.
quite sure what's going on in the solo, but it's that got that nine over. I don't know if that happens over the one chord.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's because the Layla chord loop is like a D minor, B flat, C, and then back. And so sometimes when he hits those things that step out of the pentatonic, like there's a couple points where he hits two over the B flat chord, and it gives you like a Lydian moment. Not that anyone actually thinks that in the moment, but this is me just being analytical teacher about it. I certainly don't think about that while I'm playing it, but they're gorgeous little things that just come from combining the chord progression. But it's funny. You picked a song in 6/8, and I picked a same one that is very triplet based. Kind of
Yeah,
gravitated.
that's interesting. I think a lot of the music I listen to is probably in 6/8. If it's not in straight just 16th notes or odd meter.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure. I'll have to like do some research on that. As a kid, I never learned any of that Clapton stuff. I was much more into Cream and
Sure.
the heavier stuff, and that ventured me into Black Sabbath really well.
Right.
The heavier Led Zeppelin things,
I
especially
mean,
like
don't get me
when
wrong. I listened
they
to
get
some
more
Sign of Your Love
complicated.
enough when I was a kid. I certainly I certainly got my dose of but this was kind of like I picked this like Like I looked at a bunch of Hendrix tunes as a kid, and that was like the first stuff I gravitated towards. But the
Yeah.
first time the first moment I took respite away from my electric guitar for even just a moment, I took a break from it, like to study a couple other things. This album was the one I ran across, and I was like, yes, yes, more
Okay.
of this, please. So
Now, this solo I noticed for me watching it, um, because it's on acoustic, it doesn't have a lot of bends.
it doesn't, but it does. Like there are some places,
The
like the
bends it
very,
has
very
look
beginning.
hard.
They're not anything kind of crazy hard, but like it opens with the beginning with there's a slight bend there on
Is
that
that
D
is that
string.
supposed to be quarter step, or is it? He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
go the full half step to the major chord.
No, and that's one of those things where like because of tuning, because of equal temperament, that flat third always loves a little bump in the blues. You
Hmm.
just to compensate for the 13 flat cents that come from
Yeah.
it.
So
Sorry.
so
Okay.
for you guys that don't understand, the D minor chord has F in it. The D major chord has F sharp. And what he's doing is he's bending the F halfway in between F and F sharp.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes it
and it
feels like
makes the
even that
minor
helps.
chord sound slightly more in tune. That's
Exactly.
an after effect. Discussion on equal temperament versus harmonic tuning is
Sure.
a
But
long battle.
yeah, but it's just one of those things that like, every now and then in your blues pattern, there's that note. In this case, in D, it's that F note. When you bend it up just a little bit, this chord, instead of sounding like this, you will not hear this through Zoom. Versus this, there is a tiny bit of tuning, but really all it feels like is there's like a bump in clarity. Like it feels like it's easier to hear with that slight bend for tuning, for actual mathematical like relationship to like pitch interval, like tuning reasons. It just feels good to do that. And that's what he opens with, is a tiny little bend on that. Then he does, and it was like just like a minor pentatonic kind of thing. But one of my favorite things is this solo. What makes this solo hard for me to play right, why I have to actually focus really hard, is that he plays this solo with almost all downstrokes. No matter how fast it gets, like, and it's not
Huh?
crazy fast, but to get the right
Why?
tone out of it, because it just feels so good. It feels good with all downs. When I'm doing this, all of these are downs.
Yeah, all that has to be down. That doesn't work. So let's talk about that section real quick. So right there, you got the double stop with the third note in it. Is that, are you doing all three notes, or is it just the double stop? I can't tell. It's hard
I'm
to.
just doing a double stop.
Okay, so double stop is playing two notes at once and strumming them. This is, and then he's using a slide, and the
Yeah, a little bit of a
slide's the
grace
way
slide.
we can get rid of the bend.
Yes, yes. I wonder if just because earlier in that set, in that album, he played Malted Milk that does the. It's even in the same key to do that.
Oh, you think it like influences improv?
I mean, I don't know. It's a relatively common riff, but it's definitely like, I
That
don't
would
know.
be something I want to know about this solo. When he played it, was it fully improv, or did he have this solo written?
I mean, I don't know if we'll ever really know, but I mean, this is something that he's improv on. He improvs on this caliber pretty regularly. I'm sure he probably wanted
Yeah,
to plan a
absolutely.
little bit of it out, but
I,
I
I
don't
love
know.
that double stop though, and then he goes back to the slides for a second too.
Yeah, after the slides and the double stops, he has that. He's got this little, just a little, still in the D minor pentatonic, and then he kind of travels through shape one. And this is where he uses scale degree 2 there outside of the pentatonic. And if you want to have like a moment that feels like Hendrix, play 1, 2, and then hammer pull off of it in a pentatonic shape.
So that's the
Yeah, if you want a flavor of Clapton, a little bit of that kind of like
ah,
chopped in there, you can even play like go up to the flat third of it, and then do that little quick 1-2-1 hammer pull off. That's always a cool little thing. Yeah, that's very Clapton to me, is that little moment. He does it right there.
And if you want to do it super out, you play the flat 2 first.
But yeah, that Stevie Ray Vaughan did that.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, yeah, that's in the cold shot. Actually, that's in a lot of solos. I know it's in the cold shot solo because I was learning that one.
Yeah. He definitely has that little. He has that little flat 2 in there, hammer pull off. I never would have picked that out by ear as a kid. I would have gone like, man, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, so as we level up and we learn these solos, we went back and reviewed some solos we had learned fairly early on, and I mean, I got there's got to be a recording of me playing this Black Sabbath solo somewhere. I mean, as many times as we played this song, but I don't know where it would be. I know it didn't sound good. and it may have sounded good for for being a kid,
sure,
but it didn't sound professional, and I feel like I was probably cleaner as a kid. It was much easier to play this speed and retain these bend levels, but I wasn't as accurate.
Right. The nuances of it I did not have. I don't even think I was playing this with a pick when I first learned how to play it.
Oh, interesting. So were you playing side of your thumb?
I was using every finger I could. I was not using a thumb pick. I was probably plucking with multiple fingers.
Like that kind of thing?
Yeah, those kinds of generally. I think early on, I didn't use a plectrum very much my first few years of playing guitar, and at some point, which this is for another discussion, but at some point I wanted to learn like some Django Reinhardt kind of tunes, and I'm not claiming to be a connoisseur on a great level of those things, but I definitely learned some riffs of Django of that kind of style. And I had to use a pick to do them, and so that's when I finally learned it. But prior to that, I think I did this mostly with fingers. But after having kind of like listened to it for a while, and you get used to hearing his attack, it's like, yeah, that pick with all the downstrokes, that's part of getting it to sound like he does.
Yeah.
I like it. I like his attack. I like his all downstrokes on this. Kind of can kick my butt, feel a little dangerous, but
it makes it aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's not super fast. No. It's amazing how hard that solo is. I don't think I've ever learned it, but when I hear it, I've always thought that's a hard solo.
I'll take some credit. Well, then it's very hard, and I did it well. but I mean, it was. I think the thing that was hard for me when I went to learn it. Well, the easy thing is that once you lock onto that triplet feel, you get a lot of the song. Although there are moments that are very rhythmically, like intensely kind of spastic. There are a couple of non triplet moments that are like, what's the and then it goes back into triplets. Would you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then triplet, and every now and then those triplets.
That's like a dotted eights. Is that what that was? Dun, 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 dun.
It's a hemiola of sorts for sure. I haven't stopped too hard to think about it.
Yeah, I don't know that you can hear that at that speed. You just have to kind of feel where it's going. And understand it. I think playing along with the record. So, guys, when you're learning these solos, when I first learned this Black Sabbath solo, I didn't have a slowdowner. And right now, I actually don't have a slowdowner up right now. So going back and reading the music and learning that in an hour and all up to speed, I probably could have learned it better if I had slowed it down a little bit. And don't be afraid to do that. If you guys have something like Audacity, I think has a very speed in it.
Yeah, it has under the effects. You can change tempo.
I do have a program, the Amazing Slowdowner. I don't remember what it costs, $70 or something. It's
Sure.
it's the amazing slow downer.
Yeah.
You
There's
just
also one called like Transcribe with an exclamation point that's pretty good.
yeah.
But
So don't be afraid to get a slow downer and learn these things. Don't be
yeah.
afraid to have transcriptions, and don't be afraid to write your own transcriptions. You'll find things that are wrong all the time. I'm sure there's some minor errors in what I played, and maybe some minor notes where Aaron could probably get it a little bit more like Clapton if a note was changed slightly.
Sure, sure. That you can, yeah, there's, as someone who's transcribed a ton of solos, sometimes the spirit of transcription is like, it's hard to get the mojo of the guitarist in on paper. Like it's like, oh, I could write that super specific, and I'm like, you get it. Just watch Joe Walsh play. Watch 2 live DVDs, and you'll understand what I mean when I say do that Joe Walsh thing right there. Or you know what I mean?
I
Like,
don't even know what the Joe Walsh thing is.
it could be a number of things, to be honest. I'm just spitballing.
I'm playing. I'm just enjoying this reverb right now on this big sky. Sorry,
Maybe
that's a weird detour.
maybe one day we'll talk about it, but today is not that day because it's certainly not fresh in my mind. But I can tell you, one of the hardest solos I ever transcribed was, I'd say one of the hardest just because of the interesting choices. And in the rock sphere, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like prog or fusion, but I remember getting the Dirty Laundry solo that Joe Walsh played on the on Don Henley's solo album. That first solo, the second solo, which is also incredible and uses a Floyd Rose and has some great dips and 80s level shreddiness, like snuck in the blues, that's a great solo too. But Joe Walsh's delay swathed, like tritone filled, like silliness solo that he does in Dirty Laundry. One day we'll talk about that and and we'll have a good time.
We'll look forward to that then.
Yeah, I'll bring it up sometime.
Guys, if you got solos you want to hear us play and learn, let us know. We may already know them.
Sure.
I'm sure somebody's gonna come up with something off the wall crazy. But
yeah, don't be a jerk and say Petrucci and.
I mean, that's okay. I actually know a few of those solos. So some of those will be tolerable. They're just not going to be up to speed. If you do want a basic lesson in Petrucci solos, it's just odd subdivisions and patterns. He does some really creative melody writing. Some of these melody things. Are really nice. He does that kind of stuff. But for the most part, he takes 3 notes per string, 6 notes, and he plays, like, let's say I'm going to take 7 of those notes. I'm just going to play that really fast. And just loop that over different positions of the scale. Sure. That one's really hard to do. I could have just done an easier one like this one.
Anywho.
Yeah. Anywho.
I triggered you by saying Petrucci.
Yeah, you triggered me because that stuff's probably easier than some of these blues solos for me because it's simple. Black Sabbath solos. If you guys want to hear something, just let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think of this style of video. Let us know what you think of our other videos, and feel free to check out our lessons. You can go to the playlist, Randy's Lessons, and we got some sweet picking ideas there for you. We'll see you next time. Rock on.